Thank you for auditing Professor Sky's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to be doing his third review of a Brockhampton album, and hopefully his first good one. My first review of Brockhampton was my 8th ever video, and I'm going to trash it at the end of this video. It was so bad. See, part of the issue, though, is that reviewing Brockhampton, they're a very hard group to get a handle on. You know, they're a hip-hop group, but they're a pop group, but they call themselves a boy band. They're all these different genres. So I've been struggling to find a proper framing device to describe this group. For this album, I had a couple false starts. I thought about describing them as Reddit rap, like the rap group best made for the age of Reddit. Places that where people can discuss a band in detail, get into the lore. Like a band needs to instill a certain amount of fanaticism, and somehow, like I've been on their Reddit for a couple of years now, just the amount of just love and care and attention that goes in. Like I know I'm going to post this video to Reddit, and I know that a lot of people are going to watch it, and they're going to have all these thoughts, and they're going to tell me all these things that I missed, and they're just going to get so deeply into it. But then I thought, I don't really know enough about Reddit to say that. I was going to frame this as a great example of the children of Kanye, the sort of generational children of Kanye. Apparently this group met in high school, but also on a Kanye message board. And Kanye's production, his resistance to being pigeonholed, that's really seen on this album. The ability to go between genres without really caring. Really, I think you could do a pretty good review of this album, just exclusively focusing on the way that it shows how Kanye was so important. Not just because he says he is, but because he really was. But as you can tell from the title of this video and the thumbnail, I'm actually going to have a little bit of a more controversial take. I think that we should think of Brockhampton as the Zoom Tang clan. That is to say, the Wu-Tang clan for the Zoomer generation. That is the generation that is like in between, 5 and 30 right now, roughly. This is kind of a weird take because I don't think there's going to be a lot of overlap between people who love Wu-Tang Clan and people who love Brockhampton. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me that in the comments. That's just the impression that I get. But I think that there's a lot of comparisons to be drawn, and that the difference between them can be seen in a more interesting light as a difference between generations and sort of outlooks. Not like generation, like an artistic outlook of each different generation. I thought of this by, there's a song that reminded me, the song Windows. It reminded me so much of like listening to Reunited or Impossible, one of the tracks off Wu-Tang's second album, where it's just kind of like a great Posse cut and everyone comes in. And I realized like this kind of really does feel the same. Not the same. It feels similar. I'm not going to go that far. I mean, the superficial similarities aren't that hard to figure out, okay? They're both large groups. 9 people in Wu-Tang, 13 in Brockhampton. They both represent a kind of underrepresented area in hip-hop, Staten Island and Greater Houston for Brockhampton. They both present a world that is not just music, but like the world of the group, with precise control over not only who's rapping, but who's producing, the aesthetics of their videos, like that whole thing I was talking about with Reddit, like it invites a certain amount of fanaticism where you get into even the merchandising. It creates this kind of cult-like following. And each rapper has like a distinct personality. But I think it's the kind of thing where it really pays off to love the band. This is now the third Brockhampton project I've listened to, and I can't really ever tell the difference between all of the rappers. Like, I know when it's Kevin Abstract or when it's not, but I can't really always tell if it's Merlin or Jofa or Joba. I can't quite tell, like, who's who. I can't quite distinguish it, and that's not a problem of the rappers. That's a problem of me not being as into it. I mean, when people listen to the Wu-Tang Clan for the first time, they certainly can't tell the difference between Inspector Deck and Master Killa, and sometimes they don't even know the difference between the RZA and the GZA. But when you really listen to them and when you really know them, the differences just come screaming out. And all of those Brockhampton fanatics that are listening to me talk right now are probably typing right now, how can you possibly not know the difference between Joba and Merlin? You're right, I'm wrong. But it's kind of one of these similarities and one of the problems of having one of these big groups. Perhaps the most fundamental similarity between them is that they represent a kind of shift in hip-hop within the movement itself. Wu-Tang ushered in the era of a gritty pop culture, adjacent, nerdy hip-hop, and Brockhampton really emphasizes and epitomizes this fusion of pop and hip-hop. It really presents a world in which hip-hop has completely dominated and won everything, just taken over all cultures everywhere, to the point where this kind of hybrid, which would have sounded just incomprehensible 20 years ago, totally makes sense in our current zeitgeist. So I think what's the difference is, I think the differences probably come mostly from generations. I see Brockhampton as the ultimate Zoomers. Now it's weird because I just did a video on AG Club, which is a group somewhat like Brockhampton from the Bay Area, and I made the same argument about them. And you might be thinking I'm contradicting myself, but I don't think I am. I think that I'm an old man. I'm in my 40s. I'm very much a Generation Xer. And I'm trying to understand this new generation. And this music, I believe, is helping me to understand them. I mean, I teach these kids, right? Like these the kids that I'm teaching in college. So that also helps me to understand them. And I think before getting on to what makes Brockhampton so Zoomery, I mean, I've never even seen any real analysis of what makes Wu-Tang such a Generation X group, but I really think they are. They've got that, they are dispossessed by society. They are obsessed with being cool. They're obsessed with authenticity, while at the same time being obsessed with popular culture, obsessed with sort of like niche nerd culture. This weird paradox of like wanting to be totally real, but also kung fu monks, you know? Just sort of like angry and carefree at the same time. Like politically disengaged, but in a political way, like disengaged to be like, I don't even care. It's like as a form of statement. Whereas to Brockhampton, basically none of those things apply. I was listening to them in my kitchen, and my wife immediately liked them, and she's just learning to love hip-hop, and she's like, I really like this. And my daughter, who's sort of hit or miss on hip-hop, she just really liked it. And I started to tell her the story about how they got started and how they met in high school, and I could just tell that something about this band spoke to her. I don't exactly know what it is. Maybe it is this sort of generational expression. I don't know. The idea that they are very much post-genre. I've talked about this for as long as I've done the channel, ever since episode 8 when I first reviewed Brockhampton in my car. Oh, it was bad. You know, like very much post-genre, just jumping between R&B and semi-gospel and pop and hip-hop and kind of rock, hybrid, just throwing it all around, just doing whatever. They are very much socially conscious. A lot of songs on this album talk about issues of race and class, but they also, okay, I'm going to use these words and you're going to get mad, so just I'm going somewhere with this. They are post-racial and post-sexual. That doesn't mean that they think that racism is over or homophobia is over, but the formation of the group, the fact that the group is multiracial, the fact that the group has people who are gay and people who are straight in it together, is the ideal. It's the idealism of this young generation, which I see all the time. The concept of homophobia seems to be exotic and something that is terrible and should be destroyed, but the people within this generation themselves, for the most part, are able to get beyond it. And these kinds of barriers are starting to drop. So it's not that the world is post-racial or post-homophobic or anything like that, but that these young people are really pushing towards that in a much more meaningful way than anyone else had before. It should be mentioned that you can be anything. You could be black or Latin or straight or gay, but you can't be a woman, which is what's interesting about this group. My daughter did ask that. And I actually think this is a positive side to the band because it is just an authentic band and they got themselves together and they were the friends and they did what they did. And I think if there was a woman in that crew, that would have been interesting. But because there isn't, the fact that the studio didn't put one in there or didn't put 2 or 3 in there, didn't say, oh, you need this, actually makes their authenticity a little bit more there. Overall, the feelings of this group are so much, at least that I feel in the music, it is cynical, but it's also very optimistic. I would say it's way more optimistic than cynical. Very based on collectivism, the idea of all working together as a group. Whereas the Wu-Tang Clan were individuals fighting against each other, trying to that was their strength, was like who's going to have the best verse and knock down everybody else. Really, you get the feeling with Brockhampton, as you did with AG Club, that they're all working together and they're all excited and they're all making something together. They're very much driven by capitalism, but also very weary of it. They're completely comfortable in all of these genres. And I would say that the biggest difference between this generation and my generation, and really like hip hop now and hip hop then, is honesty, is personal honesty. From the SoundCloud rappers who I'm really having a hard time understanding, to Benny the Butcher, who I love and have talked about a lot on this channel, there is a real search for honesty and truth, and for expressing one's emotional core. You know, there's a song, This Can't Be Love, by Jay-Z, with a guest verse from Scarface from Houston. And I remember hearing it in 2002, and like it made me cry, because it was this verse about a guy whose kid had died and he couldn't believe it. But like, that was it. I mean, there really was not that much truly confessional, personal honesty in hip hop. It seems to be everywhere here, and especially on this album. And I think this is a result of growing up on the internet, growing up in a place where the confessional nature of social media seeps into one's consciousness. I know I am more free with my emotions since the internet came in and I started talking about my emotions with you and with the internet. And this is at the core of the band, and very much at the core of this album, which apparently is mostly inspired by that guy Joba. I hope I'm saying his name right. Is it Jabba? I don't know. There used to be a pitcher for the New York Yankees named Jabba Chamberlain. I never liked him. I don't know if it's Joba or Jabba, but his father killed himself like just before the recording of this album, and that's the core of the album. It's mentioned many times, and the truth of this terrible fact comes out. Wrapped up in all of this, in addition to this more personal honesty, this sort of this true desire for a post-racial, aspirationally post-racial, aspirationally post-homophobia, we have a real rejection all the way throughout the album of toxic masculinity. And it's one of the main things that makes hip-hop difficult to listen to for a lot of people, is that toxic masculinity, which is largely a defining factor of hip-hop, where you have usually insecure people who feel like they've been nothing, having to prove themselves. They're the hardest, they're the richest, they're the best. And this album shows, as does their other stuff, which I reviewed poorly, that you are hard not by being hard, but by showing your vulnerability. That your strength comes from the acceptance of your weakness. Much like I said with AG Club, I'm an old man, and I believe that young people are much smarter than me. I really see the progress of human civilization, and I see it on YouTube, and I see it in music, and I see it in music like this. So now that we're 13 minutes in, maybe I should start reviewing the actual album. But before I do, I am curious, what do you think of this concept of the Zoom Tang Clan? Is it too much? Am I just trying to be cute? Or is there kind of a point here? On this album, I would say there's 13 tracks. 6 of them are absolute, I don't like using the word bangers because it makes me sound like I'm trying to sound young. So I definitely don't want to say bops, but they're definitely very good songs, probably masterpiece songs on the album. 3 strong songs, and then 4 songs which are good, but not like my cup of coffee. I set that up. I shouldn't have set that up. I should have said not my cup of tea. A little frog in my throat, a little dog in my throat. So in general, the album is very strong, and I'm just going to begin right now with a stamp. This is an example song. I'm going to point to it, and I will give you a link to the song for you to listen to if you don't know them. It's up here. It's called The Light. This is one of those 6 songs that is just amazing. It's guitar-led. It almost sounds like krautrock in a way. It almost reminds me of Run This Town a little bit, like the usage of guitar in here. my daughter was listening to it and said, "This reminds me of that Muse song, Knights of Cyclodonia." But really, it sounds more Western to me. It sounds like a Western style guitar. It is weird because they're from Texas. So I don't know, like, is that why it's called Roadrunner? Because they grow up in a sort of a Roadrunner area? I don't know. Why isn't more hip hop from Texas like Western feeling? I don't know. But what really matters in this song is this insane verse from Jabba, about his father who killed himself and about his struggles with mental health. And this is the thing, like, it's pretty dicey to have this happen to you and to put it forth in music and to, like, have it not be exploitative, have it not be just like some kind of like attempt at gravitas, but it really pays off and it really works. And you really feel like somebody is going through something very real and you're going through it with them. Bizarrely, a friend of mine, an internet friend, so we're not like old-time friends. I just learned that his father had killed himself over a decade ago. I just learned that yesterday, and I was really struggling because I was like, well, maybe I should tell him about this music. Maybe I shouldn't. How do you handle something so painful? And like, this song is so good. He is so good at expressing the pain, these weird, terrible details, like emotional details and physical details. I will always be haunted by the image of a bloody backdrop, skull fragments on the ceiling. I ultimately decided it's not a good idea to share it with him. One second, my backdrop just went to screensaver. Sorry. I don't want to do a commercial for Apple. I want to do a commercial for Warner Brothers. This image of the skull fragments in the ceiling, and I realized I'm just not going to share it with them. It's too much. It's too good. It's too raw. That is an impressive thing. Kevin Abstract's verse on here seems to be about like his youth and the difficulties he had. A lot of funny lines. Only shot callers I knew around was a bartender. No love in this game. It's not tennis. Very kind of funny, smart lyrics. He's a very smart and funny rapper. And he also talks about the difficulty of coming out of the closet with his mom and his homosexuality and his family. And the whole thing just shows you, and I talk about this all the time, why has hip-hop taken over the world? It's not just that it's catchy. It's that it's a form that allows people to say so many words, okay? That it just matters to have space. So it can be a diary. It can be confessional. You don't have to work around some kind of melody and some kind of repetitiveness. And so it's just able to do this. And this hip-hop has this power to communicate. So in this one song, it's multiracial, it's multisexual, it's a great beat, it's got a good hook, the whole thing all the way through, and it's about the light, and it's about life, and it's about death, and it's about everything. It's all here, all these words with great production. God damn, I love hip-hop. I know, I'm sure a lot of people are mad at me because Wu-Tang Clan is the greatest band ever and Brockhampton are just some boy band. But it's all part of the same fabric. It's all part of the reason I'm so excited to be alive right now when all this music is being made. I'm going to go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker now. Buzz Cut is the opening track with Danny Brown, who I like quite a bit. Although Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia both guest appear on here, I don't think they're necessary. They add something to it. It's like kind of cool underground guys to be on the record, but I don't think they actually add that much. The thing I will say about this album that I like is they go between hip-hop and pop, and it's a way more hip-hop focused album, which I really enjoy. I like the pop being something to add to it, but not the basis of it. Very Kanye style opening verse about a couch from Kevin Abstract. There is actually a Kanye line that uses the word couch. I don't know if that's intentional. Aggravating beat, aggravating chorus, aggravating guest verse from Kanye. From Danny Brown. Like everything is just very intentionally aggravating and agitating. But then there's this weird, nice singing bridge. And then by the end of the song, I realized I've just been on this whole journey through all these genres and these emotions. And it ends with, what is God to you, N-words? And it's just like, Oh, wow, just already, just the first song, just just what is going on? Next track, Chain On, that's the one with JPEG Mafia. And this, what's cool here is there's a fair amount of restraint. The, there's a guitar line, bup, 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 which is really catchy. And a lesser producer would have made like some kind of hook on here, like, that's why your chain's on, that's why your chain's on, whatever it is, but they don't do it. They leave a hook out there. The whole thing is nice. It seems to be about like kind of showing off, like allowing yourself to show off. Go ahead, throw a chain on, show you where you came from. Don McLennan, I think, is the main rapper from their group who's here, and he has this great, this kind of shiny optimism, which again is when I come back to the difference between how I feel and how I think young people present themselves, really is a lot about this optimism. Count on Me is, so I would say, just since we're keeping track here, the first two tracks, you know, the one Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia, they're strong, but not the masterpieces on here. Next track, Count on Me, not exactly my cup of tea, my cup of coffee. A super poppy chorus, and this is this thing that they do, where they just make these choruses like "Don't Need No Money," and it's ridiculously bright and poppy, and it could be on any radio station. But then what's nice is they have a guest verse from So Gone So Flexy, who's like really grimy and gritty and dirty, and it's quite nice having that mixture there. I think the last verse is by someone named Matt Champion. I've mentioned this on previous videos of theirs. He's from Woodlands, Texas, which is sort of like the McMansion capital of the world. So I think this band is also potentially post-class, because Houston itself is a very confusing place with different regions. I mean, every American city is. And I don't know. I don't know how he grew up. Maybe he grew up on the outskirts of town, but I get the sense that at least some of these members of Brockhampton come from money or come from some amount of material ease. And I think that could also be an interesting aspect of this band, right? I mean, just everything. Just everybody's all here in it together, as long as you're not a woman. Next track, Bankroll, super hip-hop sound, getting a little bit away from the pop there before. I think my favorite rapper of the group, and this is how I can tell I'm getting into them, right? Because like, it's taken me a while to get into them. This album really convinces me they're great. I think it's this guy, Merlin Wood. He has a slight accent. He's from Ghana. I've done a couple videos about music from Ghana recently. And that's the beauty of Houston. It's such a great melting pot. And I love his cadence. He has like a great mixture between sort of a more old school, kind of like dirty hip hop, and this kind of bright optimism of Brockhampton. He's a nice mixture, cool kind of chorus. And again, it's a little bit too poppy, but it's sung by this guy who's from Grenada, who sings and raps at the same time. It seems like they mainly have a couple members who do most of the work, and then these other members come in to add spice here. And then it ends with talking about the sunken thing. And I really like that Get Out and the themes of the sunken place have been adopted by hip hop, because I was a little bit tired of people just talking about the same 5 movies in hip hop. So I'm happy that there's this new movie that's been added that happens to be very good. Next track is Windows. Next track is The Light, which I've already discussed in some detail. Then Windows, which that's the track that made me go, oh my God, these guys are the new Wu-Tang Clan. It's like a really sparse beat. It actually reminds me a lot of No Diggity, but it also reminds me of Impossible or Reunited off of Wu-Tang Forever, because it's a Posse track where you never get tired of the beat. Because like everybody raps here, even So Gone So Flexy, this guest rapper, kind of rough voice, but it never gets like tiring, it never gets boring. It's like a real nice Posse track, and they're all on here as far as I can tell. And Merlin, I think, steals the show, especially within the back, people screaming, "Go Merlin," behind him. You just get kind of psyched. You feel like you're in a concert. Great flows all the way through. Every single verse is good. A couple of them are great. And my favorite part of it probably is this F the world and all those who inhabit it, just being repeated over and over again with the lowered voice. I think it's Kevin Abstract. It's really quite nice. Then we're going to get back to Not My Cup of Coffee time, with I'll Take You On, which features Charlie Wilson, the guy from Bound, the Kanye song. I don't know. It's just so poppy. Open your heart and I'll give it to you until you recognize that I'm into you. But hey, you gotta give them credit for range. this isn't rap artists making pop music. This is pop artists making pop music who are also rap artists making rap music. This doesn't feel too hard. It really does remind me of NSYNC when they all kind of sing together. And Charlie Wilson, it's just nice hearing his voice because it reminds me of Bound. Then the next track, Old News, really not my cup of coffee. Just almost sounds like Destiny's Child, the beat here. I basically skipped it because, my whole family likes the album. Everybody likes everything, but none of us like this song. I'm sorry, Brockhamptonites. You can tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. What's the Occasion? Kind of a guitar-led song. I didn't care for this one too much. It's fine. It's this guy, Matt Champion, singing about his life and Friday Night Lights. I like in the chorus there's kind of a G-funk synthesizer, but it reminds me a little too much of Sublime, which is a band I've never liked. That kind of mixture of like kind of hard rock and sort of hip-hop feeling. But I do like the outro quite a bit, and I like the chorus of What's the Occasion, so I don't dislike the song. The next track is called When I Ball, and what a misleading title, because you think it's going to be a song about like balling and having money and being rich, but it's not at all. A really beautiful, simple beat, all over this theme of when I was young. Very much, for those of you who missed the old Kanye, this is the old Kanye done very well. A piano beat with a cool drum line and ooh in the back. Reminds me a little bit like, almost like the opening track to Graduation. Good Morning, right? It's not as good as Good Morning, but but it's in that same kind of wheelhouse. I like the chorus too very much. The idea of you told me I could be anything I want to be. And the opening verse from Don McLennan is all about his incarcerated family members. So the epidemic of the criminal justice system is a real problem, and it's cool having this angle from it. Not, hey, I went to jail. Not, hey, my dad went to jail. But family members, like the way that the criminal justice system fairly systematically tears apart so many families in our country, especially so many families, African-American families. This is, I think, if we're kind of putting together some kind of survey of representations of incarceration in 21st century music, this verse would be absolutely necessary because it's the extended family, not just the direct family. It's the entire family structure that gets worn out by this criminal enterprise of for-profit prisons. Jesus, this got political. I'm sorry. I don't mean to get super political. If you own a prison system, I'm actually not going to apologize. What is going on with me today? You know what happened? The sun just came out, and so I'm like feeling good. Okay. Then we get to the next track, Don't Shoot Up the Party. Okay. So when I'm trying to review these 13 songs, right? And I'm listening to this album for like the past 3 days. And I'm trying to listen to all the songs and come up with things that I want to say. But I keep going back to this song. Don't shoot up the party. I can't stop listening to this song. I cannot stop. The fact that this song is not the #1 jam in every country in the world is a sign that something is not quite right with popular music right now. This has everything that you need to be the absolute song of 2021. It better be. By summer 2021, better be dominated by this song, or I will eat a chipmunk. It's got to be. It's just got to be, It's got so much. Like, it's got this really great opening verse, very politically on the nose. All American self-hatred runs deep. White boys, all I see whenever I sleep. N-words think these thoughts on purpose. I think these thoughts on purpose, but I knew about NSYNC before cash could rule me. So, like, he knew about pop before he knew about Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan was also sampled later on at another point in the album. Colonized minds by masters and slaves. They both hate N-words and act like N-words a shame. Homophobic. I tried to gangbang. I tried to get laid. I had to get paid. Hopped off the ship. Landed my feet in Corpus Christi. So talking about the American experience, talking about the pain of homophobia, the pain of racism, this thing that Kevin Abstract can talk about so well. And then we get to this chorus that is just the catchiest thing I've heard all year. Don't shoot up the party. Don't shoot up the party. Please don't shoot up the party. This great high whining keyboards for G-funk style. It's just so good. It's so catchy. It's everything that Brockhampton can do. I'm emotionally moved. I'm partying. It's a pop song. It's a rap song. I'm thinking about sexuality and race while also having a party. And also the whole chorus is about the epidemic of mass shootings in America. It's a really sad song. God damn it. Please don't shoot up the party. This is something that we all feel, whatever the party is. Whenever we go to a baseball game, whenever we go to a movie theater, whenever we go to a mall, a Walmart, wherever the hell we go, some little part of us in the back of our head is saying, please don't shoot me. Please don't have some random person shoot me. That would just be great. If, please. It's the please that makes this chorus so good. Please don't shoot up the party. And then the next verse, so we had that whole first verse that's a lot about like anger at homophobia and anger at racism that's able to follow up with a white rapper. And that's part of what makes this group so great. You can be angry at white people and work with white people. You can listen to people who are angry at you and accept their experience and work with them. The world that is presented by Brockhampton is such a loving and caring world, and it's based on honesty. It's not like we're all together and everything's fine. It's like we're all together and everything's fucked, but we're all together. I swore. But we're all together, right? And so they're able to say that, and they're able to show it. And then in here, I forget which rapper it is on this verse, but he talks about your heads deserve the guillotine, which then brings it into the other aspect of perhaps it's not just about race. It's not just about gender and sexuality. It's also about class. I think this is also very much an album about class as well. And then the sort of like secondary chorus or bridge, white people don't love me, I don't need you to love me, F you, come F me. So there's this other element of Kevin Abstract's writing, and he gets into that in another song, in the next song I'm going to talk about as well, or the final song of the album. He's apparently only attracted to white men, while also resenting white men for being the cause of so much pain, his personal pain, and the suffering of his people. That's really complicated. I mean, he's not the first person to talk about this. There are, books and poets and movies that talk about this complicated nature of interracial relationships, especially when there's a historical power dynamic at play. But in hip-hop, nope. I mean, whoa, this is really fascinating, right? They don't love me. I don't need you to love me. I need you to fuck me. Like, can we please get this on the radio? We did it with WAP, okay? That was a great success for human culture, okay? The fact that that song became a #1 jam means that we as a culture are going in some direction that is correct. Women's sexuality exists, and you better deal with it or become an old person who's angry about Pepe Le Goddamn Pew, okay? I think this song should follow up because there's so much that's rich in it. There's so much that's challenging. If they made like a good video, like a This Is America style video, they would do it. Okay. The next track is called Dear Lord. It's not that good. It's okay. It's like Boys to Men, semi-gospel, kind of a cappella. I don't like it. It's fine, but I don't like it. It's maybe necessary because the last 3 songs, it's like super powerful, and then this, and then super powerful. We end with the track The Light Part 2. Very Kanye production. But when I say very Kanye, I don't mean like it's aping Kanye. I mean like it does what Kanye was able to do. Just mix together different sounds, have it be unconventional, but also have it be catchy, have it be emotional. It's like guitar-based with this nice kind of voice in the background singing oohs, develops with some drums as it goes along. Kevin Abstract starts off right away talking about sick of these ends giving me false info like I ain't grow up on MTV Boondocks and The Chappelle Show. So The Chappelle Show is, one of the smartest TV shows ever made, right? And it's certainly like, I guess you'd have to argue with Key and Peele, the best shows about racism that have ever been made. So here's an interesting idea. Like what is it that's making this next generation so much smarter than mine? so much more accepting and understanding. It could be that I grew up with Living Color, which was a very good show that touched on racism, but not like Chappelle's show, right? not like the Black Klansman, you know, or not like, you know, like, so it's really fascinating here. And then he has a whole verse again about dating a white guy. And these days, no license, I only take out the Jeep if my boyfriend is driving. Plus he got the kind of skin that make the police like him. Really interesting, that resentment. And then it ends coming back with this theme again of Joba, talking about his father killing himself. And it is so painful. The most painful part is him apologizing for not seeing the cracks. I mean, suicide in a family is terrible. It's terrible. And the guilt that the family members feel that they could have done more. And he's putting it out there. And then he repeats like 2 or 3 times about how the past does not define you. The past does not define you. Anyone who suffered trauma can listen to this song and just go, the past does not define you. This is meaningful. I mean, this is really moving stuff. And the light is worth the wait, I promise. So like, it like heaven, presumably, is worth the wait. You can't kill yourself to get to heaven, or you shouldn't do it. It's worth the wait. It's a song talking about the need to stay alive, being there for people. I mean, he talks about how he's going to have kids and how he'll talk about his dad as a good grandfather and all this stuff. It's all just super mixed up. It's all just so meaningful and so moving and so important. And, you know, for people suffering through grief, I think this song will really help out a lot of people for the rest of existence. I was listening to this album while driving my daughter to school. She goes to school twice a week. We're not vaccinated. We're getting better here. And I couldn't quite tell if she was listening. You can never tell. Whenever you drive with a teenager, it's either possible that they're listening to everything or that they are listening to nothing that you say. And as we get there, she goes, "Geez, Dad, I'm not supposed to cry walking into school." And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. You know, we were all just listening and just so moved by this really beautiful song. So there's my review. Took a long time, but I think a lot needs to be said. I promised you I would trash my review. Oh my God. I watched last night. I spent a long time watching my first videos. You know why I say there's the camera at the end of every video? Because like my first 20 videos, I'm talking to the wrong camera the entire time and I don't know. And I'll even make reference to the camera and I'll be like, there's the camera. I'll be pointing to the wrong thing. So anyways, the review was just terrible. It was okay. But I wanted to keep things under 5 minutes, and I was sitting in my car, and I was sweating, and my review used to be called Sky's Sweaty Record Review, because I was always right out of the gym, and I thought that was like a cute thing to say, but I was just gross, and just covered in sweat, and looking in the wrong direction, and like talking super superficially. So if you would like to laugh at me with me, check out some of my early videos. Anyways, thank you for sticking with me. I had my 25 subscriber special on my 30th video. That's the grind. All right. Well, for let's see. I don't know. For Serge Dubrovsky, there's the camera.